Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Floodlights Camera Action, your home for the weekly reaction to the latest films in football. From Toby Maguire to Harry Maguire, we'll cover the lot. I'm Jack, but a podcast is only as good as its co-host, so every week I'll be joined by my good friend Veronika to dissect all things film and football. Veronika, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Jack. I've been busy this week, which is why the pod is a little bit delayed. But aren't you forgetting something? We reached 100 followers on Twitter, and you were gonna do an impression.
Yeah, if you missed this, so last week we obviously had Matt Baldwin on the podcast, and I thought in my infinite wisdom my Al Pacino impression from Heat stayed in the podcast. Unfortunately, it did not because we didn't record it. So we agreed on Twitter, as a reward for hitting 100 followers, I would do an impression of Al Pacino in the film Heat. Here we go. She's got a she's got a great ass, and you got your head all the way up. And that's my Al Pacino impression from Heat. You're very welcome. That sounded way better in my head than it probably did in real life. And we are going to very quickly move on so I don't feel ashamed. Veronika, have you been to any football recently, or do you have any matches lined up?
Yes, I went to watch your club, Portsmouth, playing away at Charlton at the Valley,
My
and
condolences.
I sat right behind your manager the whole time. By the way, he looks really handsome in person. Okay, I just want to say he also took a picture at halftime with like a kid who begged him for one who was a Charlton fan, and he turned around and took a selfie with him. So you know what? Someone should first of all shame that kid for taking a picture of the rival manager. Okay, because that should not be happening. The game is gone. But also, Mousinho is clearly a very nice man because he said yes. You did lose that game. I don't know if you remember, but you did lose 2-0. 2-0 to a
Yeah,
League One
I
team.
came off. I ignored your messages for about an hour and a half because I was just so angry over a preseason game.
But listen, the positives. Well, Silvera. Okay, I saw him play live for the first time ever. He is so good. He was like so clearly your best player. Even the Charlton fans were like, Jesus Christ, like when he dribbled past about four of their players and like got through or made a pass and then you fucked it up. But he was the only kind of threat you had going forward, like driving in from midfield or cutting in, having a shot or something, like anything, even if he missed. He was so great creatively that game. But in terms of the Charlton players, stand out for me was actually their right back, Kane Ramsey. He was so good. He was so good. Like going up the pitch, bombing forward, putting a cross in. Defensively, he was up against Murphy, who I was expecting to run rings around him. Absolutely no chance. He was so good. Yeah, Jack.
So first you insult my great football club, and then you praise an ex-Southampton right back who is objectively a good League One player, but it feels like just salt in the wounds.
Okay, well, sorry. I'm unbiased. Okay, I'm not like you, right? He played a really good game. I was very impressed. Also, your number 10 Yengi in the first half looked really good. I think he got like a little knock or something. That's why he kind of played a bit worse second half and he got taken off. But I was impressed with him as well. Uh, I sat also behind your assistant coach and I saw his notepad, by the way. So be careful, maybe, to your assistant coach because I could read everything that was on it, all the notes he was making. And I tried so hard not to read it. And because I just felt so bad. But his handwriting was very nice. And so was Messini's when he took the notepad. Okay, so you won the handwriting award from me, right? That's a positive. There was also one part of the game, second half, where the players just started making reckless challenges, like just going and flying in. It was mostly Portsmouth players, but anyway, Nathan Jones was getting so pissed off. He was like jumping up and down like a cartoon kid. Like it was so funny because he's so short. And like, when he gets angry, you just imagine his head going red and like blowing up and like steam coming out of his ears. And he's just jumping up and down like Bugs Bunny.
Nathan Jones is one of them managers that if he got hit on the head, it would be like in a cartoon where he has like a big mound of like flesh just prod up. Yeah, Nathan Jones hasn't liked Portsmouth for a long time. I remember when he was back at Luton years ago, he disliked Pompey and then obviously he went to Southampton. So yeah, not a fun relationship that, but yeah, Nathan Jones, interesting guy. animated figure.
He was so. I've never seen a manager behave like that on the touchline. Like even the fans around me were laughing at him. They were like, "Look at Jones! Look at Jones! Like, what's he doing? He's just jumping up and down. He's running up to the fourth official. I think when he ran up to the fourth official, he swore at him." And then Mousinho gets up and runs, like he runs straight up to the fourth. It was like a whole showdown, okay? I'm telling you, this was the most entertaining part of the game. It was Jones v Mousinho in fourth official in between. It was like a boxing match. I don't know what happened. Maybe someone got hit allegedly. I don't know, okay? I wasn't close enough. But also, what he reminded me of, Nathan Jones. You know that guy on TikTok, he wants to be an actor, and he makes those videos of himself, like crying and screaming, going, no! He looks like him. He looks like that guy. I don't know if it's the eyes or the lack of hair, but he looks so much like that guy. Anyway, let's get back to some football analysis, okay? This is a serious podcast. So, second half. First half was more equal, to be honest. Like, I think Charlton scored from a counter attack, or they just pressed quite high and got the ball back, scored. Second half, I thought you'd come out, swinging. Like, everyone going in after a halftime team talk. That was probably quite harsh. But you looked worse in the second half. It was, like, I know it's a preseason game, but, you shouldn't be losing against Charlton. Like, you shouldn't. And your response was, I think, the worst part of it, because you came out second half, you had maybe a good 5 minutes, and then, like, the Charlton players just started growing into the game and actually keeping possession, which I wasn't expecting, because it used to be the team dominating possession. But they got better as the half went on. It didn't look like one of these teams has been promoted. It looked like you were both in the same sort of division. Like, I think it was the lack of ideas you had in build up. Like, whenever you had possession, if they pressed up, your players in defense just didn't know what to do. And if it got to the midfield, the only person they would get to who would do anything was Silvera. Like, he tried his best. And the second goal he conceded was, oh my god, it was really bad. I don't know if you watched it back. It was so bad. Your
I refuse to
keeper.
watch it, but I've had it described to me multiple times, and I don't ever want to see it. It's
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I'll
you can describe
describe
it, you can
it
do the magic. Yeah.
because I was there. Okay, this is my eyewitness testimony about your second goal. Your goalkeeper comes out, like, almost out the box, like, to the left side of the penalty box. It wasn't even straight. Like, it wasn't even like there was one player attacking. There was so many players around him, and he still went out, like, to the left side of the penalty box, to the corner. The Charlton player just crosses it into the box, like, above your goalkeeper, because he went out so far, and there's loads of players running into the box. There's no goalkeeper in there. And then the Charlton striker just heads it into an empty net. That's yeah, that was it. That was the second goal. It was rubbish.
So,
Rubbish
despite
defending.
this being rubbish funded, despite this being no rivalry there at all, there is so much narrative in Pompey versus Charlton. It's ridiculous. So you got Nathan Jones, obviously, ex Southampton, hates Portsmouth. The goal scorer, as you say there, for their second goal, Ghassan Hadme. The funny thing about Ghassan, we had him on trial maybe 3 years ago, 2, 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago, I think it was. And in pre-season, he scored like 7 goals in 5 games. He scored hat tricks, braces. I've never seen anything like it. There were some songs about him having a big appendage. I don't want to talk about that, but those were going on. And then he basically started the season. He was one of the most useless footballers I've ever seen. But I love him. I love him. And I was saying all summer, Charlton need to get this boy. They need to get him. He's what they need.
Why
Well,
did
they
you
get
help
him.
them
And he
out?
only goes and I don't know. I'm just too kind. And yeah, he goes and scores against us. So it's been a long week. I'll be honest, but we move.
Also, quick little shout out from me to my man of the match, number 20, Campbell. Fraser Campbell, I think, for Charlton. I thought he was really good. Like, whenever he got the ball in the attack, he was great at just holding up play. Your defenders didn't know what to do with him. Like, all they could do was foul him. Like, okay, I know the defending was quite bad. Jack is just depressed on video right now. Listen, it was the defending really that made him look good, but he looked great in possession whenever they attacked. Okay, I have a few notes on miscellaneous things outside of football. First of all, you guys have Boo, whatever that is, as a sponsor on your, like, training
It's so
stuff.
tin pot. It's so
It's
tin pot.
so rubbish. It's so rubbish. Okay, rubbish sponsor. Second note, At halftime, they had the sprinklers come out, and like the design of them was really nice. I appreciated the sprinklers at halftime. Shout out to the Valley. Yeah, very nice sprinklers, and the little animation of them going down and up is very smooth. So yeah, shout out for that. I also wrote down Aura doesn't win you games. I wrote that down because obviously Mousinho is very handsome and he looks great. Like he looks like he knows what he's doing. He has crazy levels of aura. And then you have Nathan Jones, who looks like he's on TikTok crying about being a policeman. He's lost his daughter and jumping up and down like Bugs Bunny. But he got outdone. Mousinho got outdone by a little angry man. He looks like he has small man syndrome. He looks like he gets really angry and is just really small and yeah.
You
I
say
know
all
he
that
he
though, but
shakes his fist at the air when he gets angry. I just know.
yeah, it goes like, "Grr." Who's got the better
Yep.
handwriting though? That's what's more important.
True.
I'll
Your
let you think
assistant
about that.
does. Yeah, and that's kind of it. My conclusion of that whole thing was first half it was kind of even. You just looked kind of bad defensively, not much in attack, but you still had possession. I still thought you were going to win the game before the first goal went in. Second half, you came out completely with nothing. Basically, you were dominated by Charlton at times, and you were just toothless in attack and clueless in midfield.
Well, that was fucking bleak. So let's move on. What games you got lined up in the over the next week or so?
Yes, so, well, this will be out on Wednesday, so today I'll be going at 6 p.m. to Arsenal Leverkusen, which will be great. I can't wait to talk about it. I'll make some notes. I'll be sure to have a look out at Verts and at Arsenal, I guess, whatever. Um, and then on Sunday, I'm off to Liverpool on my only day off this week to go watch Liverpool Sevilla in a preseason friendly. So I'll see Slot Ball live in person. I'll be near the pitch. I'll make my notes for the podcast, and you'll know everything, all the exclusives, all the sprinkler analysis you need.
Yeah, I mean my games this week aren't as glamorous. I'll be honest. On Saturday, Portsmouth annoyed me so much. I refused to go to Portsmouth versus Leeds. It's not because I didn't get a ticket. Don't worry about that. I instead will be at Exeter versus Rotherham, the biggest fixture in League One, with my good mate Charlie, who is a fan of the podcast, which is great. And then on Tuesday night, in about a week's time, I'm going to Portsmouth versus Millwall in the Carabao Cup, the big one, which I think has the potential to be the worst football match of all time. I'm not sure what you think, but that sounds pretty awful to me.
Yeah, I watched Millwall Huddersfield last season, and it was probably one of the worst displays of football I've seen.
Well, I'm gonna have fun this week. You mentioned Liverpool back there. You're going to Liverpool Sevilla, the big one. Rather than just focusing on Liverpool summer business, I want to know who are your winners and then your losers of the Premier League transfer window so far.
All right, I think maybe we start with the winners. So for me, there's only really one winner on paper. Of course, we don't know how it's going to go, but on paper, it has to be West Ham. I think they've done some brilliant business. They've just today on Tuesday announced Rodriguez, the midfielder, defensive midfielder, who I think is going to help them massively. They've got Fulkrug coming in, just a proper number 9. Hopefully he'll bring in goals, although I do have some doubt about him because West Ham's striker problem has been an issue for a very long time. He also isn't the youngest. They maybe have overpaid because of the Euros hype and stuff. I don't know. But he has potential to be a proper number 9 goal scorer, and if they play around him, get the ball into him, get the ball in the box, they'll be golden. Somerville, signed from Leeds. I know there was a lot of interest from other clubs. They paid, I think, 25 mil, which is quite low for a player of his quality. I mean, I know he was really good in Championship, but he did show in the Premier League even that he is capable of playing for at least a mid-table team. Max Kilman, quite a bit ago, also a great player. I know Jack is a big fan of him. And then they signed a young winger, Luis Guilherme, who has potential because he's a Brazilian winger from Palmeiras. I trust that their scouting team have done a good job with that one. So they made good signings and they already had a good team. Haven't really lost anyone, so they're on the way up on paper, and I can only see them improving. I think they'll be back in Europe next year. That's my prediction.
You take there. In terms of my winners, I've got West Ham as well. I've also got three extras. I'll just go through quickly. I've got Aston Villa. You look at likes of Onana, Matson, Philogene, Illing Jr., Baron Ross Barkley, really underrated player. They've just like added so nicely, and they've got good money for their big assets they've sold as well. Diaby getting 60 million for him, Douglas Luiz 51 million for him. That's good business in my opinion. I've also got Bournemouth. I think if you look at their incomings, okay, maybe not as many as Villa, but they didn't really need it. Sinistera 23 million, I like. Enes Unal 16 million, I like. Dean Huijsen, butchering that, I'm sure, 15 million. Superb business. And then Alex Paulson as a backup goalkeeper for a couple of million. Good business. And then last, for my last win, I've got Everton. Jake O'Brien for 20 million is one of the signings of the summer. Fits what they want to do perfectly. Iliman and Die, okay, it didn't really work for him in Marseille. I'm not too sure on that, but 18 million, a lot of quality there. I like it. And then Tim Irigbunam, really young prospect, not really young, but a prospect nonetheless with experience, and is that kind of box to box midfield that you like. So yeah, those four I think are winners of the transfer window so far, but not everyone can be a winner. Some people are losers. Veronica, who's your loser of the transfer window so far?
Now, okay, I could cop out here and say a club who's barely done anything, like Liverpool or Fulham, but I'm not going to do that. The loser for me is Chelsea. Absolute massive loser, okay? They clearly had no plan. Once again, they've had so much time to kind of backtrack and go back, and reanalyze, regroup, and get a project going, a long term kind of vision. But they've done nothing. They've learned nothing. It seems like they're just throwing darts at a board of transfermarket.com to decide who that we're not sponsored by them, by the way, to decide who they're gonna sign. Like, I read today that they're interested in Osman now for like no reason at all. They have so many strikers. Their manager plays with one striker. Why would they sign Osman? Like, ever since Boli has come in, the decisions have just been baffling in terms of transfers. I don't know who is making them. It makes them look silly to everyone else in the league. I know that some of their fans I've heard are kind of embarrassed of how they're behaving in the transfer window. Like, I would rather, honestly, my club sign no one and be following some sort of vision or plan than, just signing 10 random players who don't improve the team or make sense, or like they're such bad signings and uses of money that you're getting accused of money laundering. Like, this is the level that that Chelsea are at right now. And yeah, I think they're the biggest loser. And even if they finish higher this season, their transfers are embarrassing. It's an embarrassing strategy.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that Chelsea are the unanimous losers. I don't think that's ever up for debate. But two others I've got for different reasons. First, I've got Brentford. I love Brentford as a club. I love the way they're run. I love Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank is the big daddy of the podcast. We love him. Their transfer business has not been good. They signed Igor Thiago from Club Brugge for 33 million. I like Igor Thiago. Good player, good number nine. However, he has done his knee, something to his knee, and he's out until close to Christmas. Not ideal. Although they've not lost loads of players that they had last season, obviously David Raya went to Arsenal, but he wasn't there last season anyway. They lost Finn Stevens, right back prospect who I like, but they don't really appreciate as much. It's not that they've lost loads of players or they haven't gained loads of players. It's just that they've kind of stood still, especially when Tony could go or whatever's going on with that. And when everyone else had kind of been improving around them, they've just slowly started slipping backwards. And I do worry that they could potentially get relegated this season. I think it's not out of the realms of possibility. I don't want it to happen. I do love Brentford as a club, but it could happen. My other losers are Forest. Now, I actually like some of the business they did. I like Elliot Anderson. However, I don't like Elliot Anderson for 41 million. I like Jota Silva for 7 million. That's okay. But for me, it's always just, I look at Forest activity and it is just so chaotic. It's all over the place. I don't know what I'm looking at with their squad. And sure, I don't have the most Premier League ball knowledge anyway. But for most teams, you can kind of go, all right, that's an 11. Then there's like 7 to 10 players who you can go, okay, pretty reliable having them on the bench. I don't see that with Forest. I don't know what the hell's going on there. They might be fine if they sack Nuno, but Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Um, certain clubs have been bullied in the transfer market this summer, but it's great to see certain players sticking up for themselves in a different way. If you didn't see over the last week, West Brom's Jason Malumbi, midfielder, ex Millwall, I believe, he had a punch up in pre-season, a proper punch up as well. It was a proper swing, and it landed as well. The guy took it very, very well, you must say. But what I want to know, Veronica, is what two footballers would you most want to see in the cage at a UFC event?
Okay, I'm glad you ended the sentence because my answer for which footballers I want to see in the cage is completely different to a UFC cage. But anyway, Jack's face just then. Okay, so imagine this, right? UFC, we've got a whole crowd at Wembley. In the red corner, do they have red and blue corners? I don't know. Anyway, do they even have corners in an octagon? All right, you know what? I'm whatever. So on one side, in the red corner, in the claret corner, I'm not going to say blue because the other side is blue. In the claret corner, we have the bulldog, the English bulldog, Mark Noble. Mark Noble is in the claret corner, okay? Yep, Jack.
If you're about to say a certain ex-Sunderland midfielder, I think
No,
this is
I'm
the
not.
peak of the podcast. All right, well, if it was Lee Catmull is like third choice. He'd get involved happily.
I've gone for a different approach. You'll see in a second. So Mark Noble, yeah, he is a proper XXL bully in the ring. Okay, he'll be growling. He'll be crawling. He's probably gonna be punching at the ankles of the player. Okay, like I don't know what his tax is gonna be. I just imagine him as like a full furry in the ring. Okay, like nails just really long, scratching at. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna still talk about Mark Noble behaving animalistically and move on to the other corner. I guess it's a. Well, you know, I don't know who he's playing for right now. I don't know if it's red or blue. But my second player, who's in the other corner, one of the eight of the octagon, is Neil Mope. Okay, hear me out. Okay, first of all, he'll be doing Fortnite dances the whole time. Okay, he'll be emoting the whole time. He's gonna be winding up the crowd. He's gonna be talking. He's gonna be chatting shit the whole time. And you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of a snake. You know? He's going to be slivery. He's going to be going in and out of Mark Noble's holes, alright? You know, in between the legs, in between the
All of
arms,
his holes, all of
sliver.
the holes.
Yeah, slithering out of, you know, his grip. I could just imagine it, you know? Listen. So, why would you not want to watch a fight where you have someone who's like a bulldog, you know, just power and fucking rah, you know, growling at someone, and then someone who's a snake who's just gonna slip out of those claws. Like it just sounds like the most interesting fight out there. Jack, what animals have you compared your fighters to, or is there any, or have you just chosen two really angry people?
Uh, yeah, I've gone for angry people. Before I say anything, that is absolutely if we do a clip from this week's podcast, that is the one going out because that is, I would say we've surpassed the High School Musical analogy from the first episode. I'm trying to fight back the tears. I need to compose myself. I've gone for a very boring answer. Sometimes you just want to see two bastards have it out, two scumbags. I want to see Pepe versus Sergio Ramos. Blood and thunder. I want to see broken limbs. There might be a death involved. That's not for me to say. If this was a film, someone would die. That's a reality we live in. I'm not going to be able to peak and kind of beat Veronica's analogy, so I'm just going to move on. That is as good as it gets. Much like fights, league tables often have a winner and a loser. With the championship starting again this week, I want to know who you think. We'll do it one by one. I want you to tell me who you think the three promoted teams from the championship will be this season.
Okay, so my promote teams. I want to preface this with saying I don't really watch much of the championship. Okay, do not take my opinion seriously. I did this on the train. Okay, I had no internet for research. I had to use my brain, and there's not much in it. Okay, but anyway, the three teams. So first one I've gone with is Luton. Okay, I've gone with Luton. Rob Edwards, what a man. I mean, what a man. All right, yeah. So also he's a great manager, yeah? He's also a great manager. Don't let the looks fool you, okay? He also knows his stuff. They have a cohesive structure as a club. They have a solid team. They clearly prepared for this. They signed some really good championship players who would go down and come right back up. I feel like that's why they didn't have to make that many signings. And, I do think that consistency is kind of overlooked when people make predictions sometimes. They go for the new transfers and the new signings and the outgoings and the new manager and the shiny new things because they want to get a clip or reactions or whatever, and they just jump at it. But I really think that signings aren't as important as they seem unless they're a complete class above the current option. So, of course, Haaland was going to, impact Man City, or I don't know, someone good impact another club. I can't think of another good player. So I think that, a team that's more consistent is the most important thing. That's why my second pick is Burnley. Okay, another ex Premier League team that I think is going to go back up. Listen, I know they lost company. I know. But Scott Parker has proved that he is capable of leading a team to promotion, okay? Even if the team goes back down, the promotion bit, he's good at it, okay? They still have a good team. They still have some exciting talent they haven't sold. They still have some young players, young wingers that we've seen in the Prem who have been quite impressive. I think that if they go up, they will go straight back down next year, like 100%. They will probably keep Scott Parker and go straight back down. They'll fire him and then go back down again, okay? They'll probably fire him in the first game back. But yeah, that's my second pick that I know Jack disagrees with because he just shaked his head. And my third pick is Middlesbrough because, again, I just value consistency really highly when making predictions. And they have kept Carrick as manager, which is really important. And they also ended last season really well. And I think that that is also big. I do expect them to carry that on into the next season. I think if they keep that on, they'll sail through. Maybe not sail through. I don't know. They might go through in the playoffs. That is not a smooth sail. But those are my three candidates for promotion. Probably wrong, but yeah. Oh yeah, I did exclude Leeds, by the way, because the Leeds are not getting promoted. I'm saying it.
Well, I'm very glad that we don't have the same three. I think we have one in common. I think the team promoted out of the playoffs this season will be Coventry City. Mark Robbins, fantastic gaffer, really good team spirit. They've basically got two quality options in every position, which is just one of them things where if a team's got that, they'll probably do really well. They've spent the Gyökeres and Heyman money really well over the last couple of years. I really like what they're doing. They're trending upwards. Like them a lot. Luton, I have finishing second. As you've said, consistency both on and off the pitch. They've not had to recruit loads, and where they've added quality, they've done so really well. I think one really underrated signing they've made, and Luton have done this a couple of times over the years. They'll sign players that are kind of on their way of out of academies, like top level academies. This season, Ruel Walters, who I wanted at Portsmouth, young centre back slash right wing back, versatile defender. I really like him for that system. Rob Edwards, again, fantastic manager. They're a team that can beat teams with the ball and kind of dominate play, but you know, at the heart of it, they can go really direct. They can counter attack. They can sit back and absorb pressure. They can press. They've just got a bit of everything, and I really value that. And unfortunately, yeah, I'm going to go really boring. I think Leeds are going to win the league. I think Daniel Farke is one of the more underrated championship gaffers in the league history, in my opinion. I think they've got some really, really talented options. I think their issue, though, is that they don't have a proper nine that I love. I do like Mateo Joseph and Jorginho Ruter and Joe Peru. They've got some really good players. I like them a lot. I think it will be at least two of those three are going up. Weirdly, I think, although I've said Leeds will win the league, I think they're the least likely to go up. I don't know. I can't really get my head around it, but I think Luton and Coventry are definitely up. I'm going to stop talking in circles now. Veronica, it's bad news, I'm afraid. Who is going down to the depths of League One, the depths of hell?
All right. I don't have much reasoning. I've gone with what came to my head immediately. Right, this might as well have been a quick fire question. Okay. Listen, firstly, Oxford. Okay, they all I know, because again I didn't have the internet. I don't know who they signed, and the only thing I knew is that they signed a Polish player, Płacheta, who's a winger, and he's very fast, and nothing else. There is no end product. So if they're making signings like that, there's a problem. They just got promoted, I think. Right? Yeah, okay. And I just think it's too much of a step up. I can't see them staying up. My second pick is Plymouth. Plymouth. Because listen, their badge. Look at their badge. It just screams League One. Okay, it's so ugly. I'm sorry if I offended any Plymouth fans, but the badge just screams League One. That badge should not be in the Championship. Nowhere near a TV broadcast. Okay, so they're going down. My third pick is Sheffield Wednesday because listen, my reasoning is I just don't think both Sheffield teams will be in the same league for longer than a year. And I'm not predicting Sheffield United to get promoted, so Sheffield Wednesday have to go down. I'm sorry.
That is weirdly like Sheffield Wednesday. I think are the biggest shout there to go down. My first pick, I'll do the one we got the same. It's Plymouth. I don't rate Wayne Rooney as a manager, although I think they've got a decent setup there at Plymouth, and I think they're recruited okay. I think it's Wayne Rooney for me. It's just that something isn't right there. Next, I've got one of the promoted clubs. It's not Portsmouth. It's not Oxford. It's Derby County. And although I do have a lot of affection for Paul Warne, he's got just a fantastic energy. Reminds me a lot of Danny Cowley. I don't know if they've got what it takes to stay up. I look at that squad and I go, okay, there's some good quality there, but I don't see the whole thing coming together. So I'm a little bit concerned for them because I like Paul Warne and I like Derby. And my last pick, and I think these are almost surefire to go down, which is crazy being how recent they've been in the Premier League. It's Watford. Watford are an absolute basket case of a football club. Tom Cleverley, really good gaffer. I mean that fantastic. That squad is a mess. They've recruited really poorly, some of the worst in the league. I just don't see it there, and I just don't think they've given Tom Cleverley. If you can give Tom Cleverley experienced Championship pros and a little bit of quality, you're doing all right. But they've lost some good players. They've not recruited where they're weak. Their front line is just piss poor. So I'm really concerned for Watford because we all like Elton John, and Elton John is going to be heartbroken. But ending on a positive note, who is your dark horse?
Okay, just after you mentioned Elton John, I want to mention a little story that I have involving Elton John and my childhood. So one time I was in ICT class with my friends, and I was not doing any of the work. I was on this website where you could find emails to like random people. I don't know how I found it, okay? And there was an email to it was Elton John's email, right? It was Elton John or his PR people or assistant or whatever. So I emailed him from my school email address, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna email loads of random people, and one of them will reply, right? Like just random celebrities. And the only person to reply was Elton John. I asked them all the same question, which was, "What is your favorite color?" Because that's all I can make up, and I thought it was so funny at the time. Like me and my friends were laughing so hard, like, "Haha, they're all gonna open the email. It's gonna be so stupid." Anyway, he replied, or his assistant replied, and they said that his favorite color changes daily, and on that day it was a dark purple. So that's my story about Elton John.
That is a
Anyway,
weird answer, by the way. Dark
okay.
purple.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was like promoting an album that had a purple cover. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the dark horse of the championship season, I went with Hull City because I do think that they've been kind of building up to something over the past few years. They have a long-term plan, long-term vision, a way of doing things that they've established, especially how they've gone about their transfers in the past few years. And I think that if all variables kind of go their way and some teams do worse than expected, they might surprise some people in a positive way. Finally, and the signings of Ryan Giles, they signed Mellum from Darmstadt, who I remember was pretty good in the Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2, and of course also Cody Drame from Leeds, who I also think is a pretty good player. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Hull City.
Now I've got James Alcott's beloved QPR as my dark horse. I've got a lot of affection, a lot of time for QPR. I think Marty Fuentes is one of the best gaffers in the league. Burnley should have definitely tried to get him. I'm pretty sure they did, but whatever. I think they've got a really good balance in their squad. They've recruited really well. I think they'll probably push playoffs this year, which is crazy because last season you maybe look at the league and go, okay, they're a decent team, whatever. They started so poorly under Gareth Ainsworth, but as soon as they hired Marty, I think it was something like from New Year's Day to the end of the season, they were like ninth overall, and they've only recruited better since. I just, yeah, I'm big on the QPR train, so come on you ours. Now, potentially in less serious news and pressing you for championship predictions, a little birdie tells me you've got a football story for us.
Yes, my football story of the week is related to a Charlton player because I thought I'd keep, on the theme of Charlton considering I was there. So they have a player, the centre back actually. I think he's captain this season, Lloyd Jones. He was part of a footballer dating reality show this year that I watched, okay? You had such stars as Jamie O'Hara, Ryan Babel, and Charlton centre back Lloyd Jones. So basically, the premise was that they had to pretend they weren't footballers so that the women would fall in love with their personality and charm. Spoiler alert, it didn't work because I googled and they all broke up after the show anyway. But some of the things that happened, for example, was Ryan Babel pretending to be a construction worker and saying that he worked on the Burj Khalifa, and then Jamie O'Hara bringing in a Burj Khalifa Lego set to the house one day just to like mock Ryan Babel. It's just the craziest show if you're a football fan. And then there was a reveal after a woman was eliminated or dumped, where the guy comes in the room behind the scenes and he says, "Guess what? I'm actually a footballer." And then they're American women. So either they react in a way where it's like they think they're billionaires and playing in the Premier League even though they're a League One player and or retired, or a talk sport presenter, or they're just like they don't give a fuck at all because they don't watch football. Like they don't know anything about it, or they're just crying because they've been dumped. So yeah, it's a really weird show. I can't remember what it's called. It's called Love Undercover, I think, which is a very generic title. It has nothing to do with football. But yeah, so that's my story of the week. A little bit about Lloyd Jones and the fact that he was on a football dating reality show.
Yeah, Portsmouth legend Jamie O'Hara. Not he was okay for us. We had him on loan from Spurs when we got relegated from the Premier League. Anyway, for once, very rarely, I also have a story for the podcast. We're recording this on Tuesday night, the 6th of August, 2024. Portsmouth have announced the signing of Matt Ritchie, ex-Bournemouth, ex-Newcastle, ex-Portsmouth as well, came through as a youngster from the same hometown as me, Gosport represented. That's not the cool part. I mean, that is cool, but whatever. I I'm known for many things, being a bit of a smart ass analyst. I talk about film too much. I tweet too much. That kind of thing. It's very rare I get inside information. However, on this occasion, this morning I had a text from someone I know, says Matt Ritchie done deal. I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, but we'll see how it goes. There's only one source. And he's a bit unreliable. We'll see how it goes. At about five, half five, I had a message from another guy, completely unconnected. Doesn't even follow me. Is a bot account seemingly, but has given me information in the past, which is great. Also saying Matt Ritchie was done and dusted. Now, this wasn't reported on by any journalists in the Portsmouth space, none. All indications were he's off to Bournemouth. I put a little tweet out saying, Matt Ritchie might be going to Portsmouth, watch this space. I put that tweet out about 6:05. At 7 o'clock, we've only gone and bloody announced him, haven't we? I'm turning into an in the know account. This is me from now on. I don't have to do any more analysis or long articles. I can just do ITK stuff.
Just, in case we have any reach, if anyone has any transfer news and wants to let us know, listen, we can even announce your new signing on the podcast, okay? Like any clubs, even if you're a non-league fan and you've heard that your uncle just signed, let us know. We'll give you an announcement, we'll give you a shout out. We'll make it a massive deal. I might even make you a photoshopped graphic of High School Musical. I don't know. Let us know.
And if you're interesting enough, we might even get you on a podcast, but that's not a promise. Now, we have come to the end of this very long football segment, which is great. So it's probably the best one we've had yet. And now, in every segment, we always try and end with some form of game or quiz. Well, despite absolutely no fanfare for it, overrated or underrated is making its return, in which I'll throw some names at Veronica and she has to give me her gut reaction on if they're overrated or underrated. It's very simple. These are all footballers that play for Liverpool. Veronica, are you up to the task? Are you ready?
Yeah,
Trent Alexander-Arnold,
underrated.
Alexis
Clearly.
McAllister,
Uh, underrated.
Alisson,
Underrated.
Darwin Nunez.
Underrated. Because I love him.
There's going to be an overrated at some point. It's going to happen. Mo Salah,
Underrated.
Ibrahima Konate,
Ah, that's hard.
dun, dun,
Underrated.
dun, dun. Harvey Elliott,
Underrated.
Cody Hakpo.
Over.
Oh, first one, Diogo Jota,
Over.
and ending on Ryan Gravenberch.
Over. He should
Oh,
not be
we've got some,
rated.
whatever.
He shouldn't be rated.
Well, bad news for Ryan. Now, before we let you listen to our fascinating conversation with cinematographer Jack Rogers, we need you to do us a massive favour. It's very simple. All we want you to do is leave us a lovely 5-star rating on Spotify. And if you want to, click auto download so you never miss an upload. As promised, here is our conversation with friend of the show, Jack Rogers. Enjoy. We're now joined by Jack Rogers. Jack, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show.
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I've been looking forward to this one for a bit, so it should be fun.
Absolutely. Jack, I want to, much like a therapist, I want to delve into your childhood. Specifically, I want to know, A, who you support, a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because I already know, because, I'm clever, you see. But more specifically, what were your first memories of football, anger or heartbreak?
So I was born and raised in Portsmouth, so there's only really one team to support. It was always going to be Portsmouth for me. Trying to think now. So let's go for my earliest memories of heartbreak. There's been many following this club. I'd say probably my most vivid one is probably watching us lose the FA Cup final to Chelsea on TV. I think I was about 9 then, so that's about the time I start remembering a lot clearly, is sitting there watching it on my front room floor and seeing that. It's terrible.
That was also in the pilot episode, we talked about our first memories of heartbreak in football. And that was also my exact same one because I thought it meant we'd never play football again because we also got relegated. And obviously, there was some financial issues as well around that time. But yeah, Veronica, hopefully you have a bit more of a hopeful question for Jack than I do.
Yeah, well, my question is more about right now rather than the Portsmouth of old. So, what are your aspirations and dreams for Portsmouth this season? And in the transfer window, if you have any.
I'll snap your hand off for 20th place or whatever keeps us safe at the moment. I'm not expecting much. I'd just love to see us kind of stay up. I feel like if we go down, it's a massive waste of an opportunity. I think if we can establish ourselves and begin to keep establishing ourselves over the next few years, then we're in a really good chance to make our way back to the top where we belong.
Now, I asked this question last week to Mal, but if you had to steal a player from your rival team, who would it be?
I'd love to say none of them. Absolutely love to say none of them. But considering he's wore the shirt once, I'd probably take Bazunu. It's a bit less daunting. At least he understands the club a bit more. But still, then I'd probably keep him on the bench regardless.
He's no Will Norris, is he? Kind of moving away from football now and back towards your childhood, back towards the past. I want to know about your early film memories. I always bring up things like seeing Alpha and Omega in the cinema with my family, or watching the Simpsons movie over and over again. But do you have any like early memories and like maybe going to the cinema with a family member, or watching a film over and over again as a kid?
A lot of my memories, so to speak, with film, going to the cinema are quite negative. I think my most vivid memories of going to the cinema is like leaving Mr. Bean's holiday early because of how bad I found it. Uh, Sitting behind ridiculously tall people in Odeon, Port Solent, and missing like the entirety of I think Planet 51, and just kicking off a fuss out there, and then leaving a film early due to being ill halfway through it. I can't even remember the name, and that's just my entire childhood of going to the cinema was just bad things. It's kind of crazy the path I've taken now, considering.
Now, you mentioned the path you've taken now. Can you describe to us your kind of creative process and how it has evolved over time since you were younger, kind of starting to pursue film?
Yeah, so I didn't really get into film until a few years ago. I was pretty much had my heart set on joining the forces straight out of school. Um, and then I got my results back on GCSE results day, and I got like a B in media, I think it was, and I thought potentially this could actually be a better career path for me, uh, something a bit safer, something a bit I get to express myself a bit more. So I just kind of pursued it from there, and then after that, it's just kind of been developing and developing each year now. And the more I learn, I think the more I start to fall in love with the art of it, and actually the consideration of like everything that goes into making a film, and not just what you see. A lot of what you do behind the scenes is just as fun and just as great as what the end product gets to look like. I think my personally for my creative process, it's a term. I, a lot of people will bash me for this, but I tend to kind of leave it to what is happening on set. What can I capture there and then? I'll have a storyboard, so to speak, of ideas of how I want shots to look. But if my whole approach, especially with my last thing, has been to kind of allow the actors to fill the space in a way that they feel comfortable, in a way that they feel will encapsulate the world that they're trying to portray to the audience, and kind of feel that myself and capture that in a really like visceral manner.
Jack, you've been very kind to share a couple of your projects with me over the last couple of years, which I've been very grateful for. And I want to kind of delve kind of into a what you see and then why things look in a certain way, and kind of how much do you think tone slash the subject matter of a film impacts on the way it's shot, or framed. For example, Synapses, from what I remember, it's been maybe a year since I've seen it, but was shot very differently to In This Moment. What's the kind of rationale behind the way a film looks in the way it's
I
shot?
think there's a lot you can do with filming a film, uh, where you can do a lot of talking without necessarily saying anything with dialogue or actions. You can really get into a character's headspace simply through the use of lenses and lighting at that time. So, like you say with Synapses, it was very grungy, very in his own head. We're trying to feel that pressure, and it's a bit all over the place. And I think the way we wanted that, and I wanted that, was to feel like the camera's almost his mind. We want to be all over the place with the camera, and then in comparison, a massive shift, like you say, within this moment is to capture moments, allow moments, holding on moments, and just really being present in moments, and just allowing the space to be used without forcing forcing it into a conform for the camera, so to speak.
Now, as a student filmmaker, you of course work on a much smaller budget than any kind of big studio or even small studios. Uh, what opportunities does that give you though, as a result of having to be more creative with the way that you make films or your processes?
There's a lot. So I think even for a student film and a student budget, we this year still had one of the smallest budgets going into making the film. Um, but it really gives you a good opportunity to kind of learn some shortcuts yourself. You kind of learn how to approach people and speak to people outside of the industry, and in a way that they can help benefit you, and how you can benefit them, and kind of just, so we managed to get a few we got and it's about who you know a lot of the time as well. So we had managed to get one of our locations for free simply because our friend's mum previously worked there, and she knew people. I think we only ended up paying for one of our locations, which was a chunk of our budget, unfortunately. But it allowed us, especially our production designer James, to really develop his craft, because instead of going out and buying and renting an Airbnb, say for the 4 day shoot, we were actually able to completely redecorate his bedroom and build that world how we wanted it, and for a lot cheaper than it would have been to rent the room elsewhere.
As I mentioned earlier, Jack, you were very kind in showing me your recent project titled "In This Moment," which was a tender exploration of how a young couple kind of navigate quite a familiar problem. There was kind of a few, yeah, I'd say familiar themes with me in my life that kind of resonate really strongly. On a broader point, what was the process of making that like, and what were the big inspirations behind the film?
So we went into this originally wanting to make, well, this time last year we just kind of bashed together a group of people we were keen on working with, a group of people who've never worked together before, and we wanted to make a cheesy 80s film, um, originally, uh, just navigating a, a common theme. And then over the course of the summer and into October, we kind of really shifted our idea. Andy, the writer and director, along with Mikey, the other writer, really kind of knuckled down and thought this new approach is something we can definitely lean in on. I think he took a lot of inspiration off of past lives tonally. As a group, we really feel it's past lives, normal people, after sun. You sort of visceral kind of, there's almost slow burners of emotion. They're not necessarily direct, like you should feel sad. You're watching this, you should feel sad, but it kind of eats away at you in your head. And we don't want to make anyone sad watching our film, but we wanted to make them feel something. And I think it definitely makes you feel something, and it definitely makes you think about a time in your life that you've probably faced a multitude of times.
Now, Jack, tell us what are your three favorite films of all time?
So these are constantly changing. I mean, I get bored and change it every week on my Letterboxd. So, but there's one that's always going to stay top, and that's After Sun. I think me and Jack have spoke about After Sun between ourselves multiple times. How great of a film that is. I think watching that was one of the best experiences I've ever had in a cinema. The emotion, just everything that Charlotte Wells did with that was beautiful. It inspired a lot of shots I've used elsewhere in my films, like synapses. Me and Jack spoke about before.
TV
There's an
shot.
opening TV shot, yeah. And then let's say second is probably The Karate Kid. I'm a sucker for an underdog story. I'm a Portsmouth fan. Um, it's very much the sort of story I'd love to recreate one day. And then third, I'm going to go for Saving Private Ryan. I think that's the first time I ever watched a film, and I thought, wow, um, that's that's cinema, really. Having the chance to see that on the big screen last year for the first time, because obviously it came out before I was even born, it just made it even better. And I even did my dissertation this year on Saving Private Ryan, so it'd be silly not to have that in there somewhere.
That is one of my favourite selections we've had so far, I think. So, Jack, you're doing well in that regard. But in terms of moving away from your favourites and what into what you've seen recently, what is one film that you have seen recently, and what are your thoughts on it?
I think let's go for the last film I watched in the cinema, and that was Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, I've seen some stick online about Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'll be honest, it's the best of the three films yet. Um, I think if you go into it and you're thinking you're expecting a cinematic masterpiece, then that's where you've gone wrong already. It's far from that. But if you go in and allow yourself to just enjoy the moment, it's a fucking brilliant time.
All right, now talking of brilliant times, uh, I don't know where I was going with that segue. Anyway, tell us a film you've never seen that's really famous and really big. Give us your cinematic blind spot.
I've got a few. I mean, going to film school and everyone's throwing all these names about films and sitting there and thinking, God, I've never actually seen any of these. One that always sticks out for me is Shawshank. I've never watched Shawshank. I've never even thought about watching Shawshank. And then I'll throw in an extra one for you. I've not even seen Gladiator. Um, and I can't wait to watch the second one. So I think it's about time I get around to watching them too, I think.
Now, you've atoned for your sins. And by the way, Gladiator, the first one is perfect. Shawshank's also incredible. So you've got two good ones there to look forward to. Going from films you haven't seen to films that we hopefully haven't seen, can you set us one film for film homework to watch before the next episode?
Yeah, so actually I was taking ages to look the other day. I was trying to find films and I was thinking, oh, this would be a good one. And every time I went to look on Letterboxd to see if it had been seen, Mr. Hancock's already seen it. So I think I found one that maybe you haven't seen. It's one that really stands out to me. I think it's a whale of a time. It's weird. It's a scary film. I'm suggesting you should watch Creep. It's on Netflix. That is it's a found footage horror film, and it's perfect. It's weird. It's creepy, but I think it just perfectly shows one of the principles I really want to push on my film sets is I feel like the people making that film, likewise with Deadpool and Wolverine, had a lot of fun making that film. And I think if you're not having fun making it, then it's going to be rubbish. And they had a lot of fun making that, clearly, because it's fantastic.
All right, we're gonna do our best and watch Creep soon then. And just to end this segment, this guest segment, we're gonna play my quickfire questions game. Same as what we did with Matt last week. I'm gonna prepare about 8 questions, 9 questions, and you just have to give me the first thing that comes to your head.
Sweet. Is there any wrong answers or?
No, there's no wrong answers.
Thank God.
Okay.
Right.
Who is your favourite character in Family Guy?
Chris.
Do you like rain or sun?
Rain.
What's the stupidest thing you spent money on?
Skateboard.
What is your favourite board game?
Monopoly.
If you had to become an animal after you die, what animal would you become?
Like a big dog.
Okay. Would you rather have a truck or a bus as your everyday car?
I'll have a truck.
Do
There's
you like
two
using
more options.
Microsoft Excel?
No.
Do you have a dog?
Oh, no, I do not.
Do you think that every phone should have the same charging port?
Yes, because I've got a USB-C on my iPhone and it's terrible.
Now, you and Jack both have the same name. If you had to change Jack's name to something else and your name to something else, what would you choose for both of you?
Paul.
Paul for both?
After Mr. Mescal. Yeah, we're both called Paul now.
We're joined at the hip now. We're both Pauls.
Cool. Okay, that's it. I run out of questions.
You only get the hardest hitting questions on Floodlights Camera Action.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Jack, thank you so much, mate. Thank you for letting us pick your brains on kind of the more technical elements.
No, thank you.
A go at just plugging whatever you want to whatever you want to plug, whether that's socials or whatever.
Obviously, everyone. Well, I'm trying to get up the Instagram for my film, man. That's a good. Right, so in this moment.film on Instagram, if anyone wants to keep up to tabs on our film's progress, it's currently doing a festival run. It's just been selected for one in Scum, so hopefully hopefully we can show up there and have and win some awards. But we'll be posting a lot on there in regards to the sort of things we're going to be doing now, and then hopefully be able to share it with people in a year's time. Hopefully, when it finishes this festival run, and then Jack Rog _film on Instagram if anyone needs any videography done, because I need some money now. I'm a student that's just graduated.
Give the man a job. He deserves to get paid.
Yep.
An absolutely delightful time, Jack. Thank you so much,
Thank
mate.
you. Thanks for
And
having
we'll
me.
let you go now.
Cheers. Thank you.
Massive thank you to our good friend Jack Rogers for coming on the pod. Now, Jack very kindly, as always, set us some film homework to watch for the next week. But let's cast our minds back to last week, in which Matt Baldwin set you Ponyo to watch, and set me Beau is Afraid. Veronica, how did you feel about Ponyo?
Okay. Well, it's episode 4, and it's another miss. It's another miss. The worst one yet. Okay, I gave it 2 stars out of 5. I'm sorry, Matt. Listen, I did your homework on time. It's just 2 stars. Now, I'm gonna explain myself because I did see that quite a lot of people love this film. I've seen one other Studio Ghibli film before. I saw the Boy and the Heron at the cinema, and I also wasn't really impressed too much, even though people give it 5 stars everywhere. So I just think it's a me problem. Like, I just don't think that style of film is for me. And it's not just because it's an animated film, because there are animated films that I love, even recent ones like Puss in Boots 2 or the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film from last year. Like, they're both films I really love the style. I think the story was good, the scripts were good. I just enjoyed them. And something about these, specifically the Studio Ghibli films, that just doesn't get to me. Like, they almost seem too nice, like too lovely and cute and flowery. And like, I know Boy and the Heron had some, creepy scenes, or his teeth were showing and he's a bird or whatever. But it's just like, it seems so, I don't know, like kind of like a fable, like a fairy tale, rather than the real gritty world of Puss in Boots 2, okay? And there's no panic attack recreation. We need those in every animated film. Alright, Jack, you've watched Beau is Afraid. I can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Now, to set the scene, I expected to really dislike Beau is Afraid, and I try when I watch films not to come in with any preconceived biases or opinions or whatever. But I think it's natural. I look at it and I see like horror comedy, and I see 3 hours long, and I go, ugh. I did really like. Actually, that's a lie. I'm thinking of a different director. Anyway, it's just not really my thing. However, good news. Unlike Veronica, I did enjoy my film homework. I really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved the first 40 minutes. It did drop off in the last 2 hours, but kind of that first hour, especially the first 40 when he's in the apartment, are just unbelievable. In terms of the strengths, I think the match cuts were just sumptuous. The shot selection was great. I thought Whacking Phoenix was well, like Wacky Phoenix anyway. I think the film it really utilised its ability to create that atmosphere of kind of stress and anxiety and worry and that kind of nightmarish feel. Yeah, those are really really good positives. But in terms of negatives, it was really bloated. It was way too long. To the point where I felt like it didn't. It tried to do too much and ended up not committing to anything fully in terms of like ideas.
See, I'm actually the opposite from Jack. Like, I really liked the beginning. I think the middle was a bit too much, but I think the best part was the end. Like, I genuinely really enjoyed the last kind of half hour, 40 minutes, because that's where it's like the most trippy and fucked. And I love that stuff. So to me, the end bit where I don't want to spoil, but he goes into a house, and then stuff happens, and that's my favorite part because freaky. But anyway,
Yeah, I was about to reference the the thing, shall we say, in the top of the house, but I won't say that. That'd be a spoiler. But yeah, back to kind of the negatives. I think if you released it as like a 2 hour film, I think it's spot on. I think you can really fully commit to less. But I do really respect I believe it's Ari Aster. I really respect his vision. I think we need more films that are just out there and unapologetically themselves. And sure, it might divide opinion, and sure, people might not, be as on board with it. I think I don't really know who the target audience is apart from Veronica, but I had a good time with it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which is so much higher than I expected it to get. So yeah, really yeah, happy with how film homework turned out for me anyway. Um, Veronica, as you mentioned, although it's been maybe a quieter week of film watching for you, what else did you watch apart from Ponyo?
So yeah, I've only seen one other film, and it was at the cinema. I didn't watch anything outside of the cinema. I went to watch. I've been waiting for this for so long. I went to watch Paris, Texas, the 4K remastered, renovated version that they showed at Cannes Film Festival this year at my cinema. I've been waiting for it to come back to cinemas so I can go watch it for so long. It's my favorite film of all time, and watching it at the cinema for the second time, restored in that way, it just cemented that fact even more. Like, I genuinely do not think I will ever watch a better film. I'm willing to bet so much on the fact that I will never love a film more than Paris, Texas. It's just perfection. It's so universally perfect. It's not even just my opinion. It is, in my opinion, okay, not in my opinion. It is objectively the best film of all time. And if you disagree, you're wrong. I said it just to, get into it a little bit more without spoiling, even though it's a really old film, but some people will not have watched it. The actress Nastasia Kinski, I think, who plays Jane, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I had no internet to Google the names of characters. She plays one of the women, the blonde women, the younger one. Anyway, she genuinely at the cinema made me get chills when she came on screen for the first time. Like, because I knew what was going to happen and what happened before. And the scene when they're speaking in the booths is my favorite scene in any film. And the shot where his hands are on the screen and you can see, oh no, her hands are on the screen and you can see his reflection where her face would be. Oh my god, it's my favorite shot in all of cinema, and it gets me every single time when they're just speaking to each other in these long monologues. And oh my god, I mean, Harry Dean Stanton, again, I might have got the name wrong because I had no Wi-Fi on the train. He's definitely the standout, but she is just so mesmerizing and transfixing on screen. Like, the camera loves her so much. I can't even describe it. Like, I haven't seen an actor or actress have that ever. So yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I recommend going to watch it if you haven't. It is the best film of all time. Trust me.
I will be watching Paris, Texas at some point. I've somehow not managed to, which is disappointing, but I will do at some point. I promise. In terms of what I've watched more than Veronica, because I've had nothing to do. I've averaged a film a day over the last week, which is good. I'm happy with that. And all the films have been either good or great. In terms of good, I've recently, as we discussed last week, I believe, I've been trying to watch the old X-Men films. I watched X-Men: The Last Stand, uh, X2. They're both really serviceable films. X2 is the best one I've seen so far, about 7 out of 10. I watched Midnight in Paris. Although Woody Allen is an absolute shitbag, the film was pretty decent. I think Owen Wilson definitely carried it. And Woody Allen, amongst many things, cannot write women. Um, that's not the worst of his crimes. Anyway, also watched Birds Afraid, obviously, which was really good as we covered. Moving into great now. I've recently, not recently, but over the last month or so, I've discovered an app called Canopy, which for students or people with a library card, I'd highly recommend. It's basically a free film service. All you need is a student ID or a library card, and there is such a huge collection of films, documentaries, TV shows, old, new, whatever. One film I've wanted to watch for ages, and I recently discovered was on there, is In the Mood for Love. In the Mood for Love is a story about um, a man and a woman move in, both married, move into an apartment block and discover that their partners are having an affair with each other, if that makes sense. And these two who are getting cheated on kind of come together and build a relationship. Not too many spoilers there. It is one of the most elegantly shot, beautiful, um, sad at points, but also really joyous films I've ever seen. The pacing was an issue, and it didn't all resonate with me, but that was a really good film, about an 8 out of 10. Highly recommend In the Mood for Love. It is foreign language, which might put off some people, but it's that age-old quote of why would you let one little strip of subtitles rob you of so many great films? So definitely recommend that. Moving on to the second best film I saw this week, I watched The Big Lebowski. What a film! I'm not normally a huge fan of those kind of stoner noir type films, but this just worked for me. It came from one of the Coen brothers. Coen brothers a bit of a mixed bag, but this was one of their best. Not as good as No Country for Old Men, but definitely up there. It was funny, it was sharp, it was paced pretty well, it was really well acted. It just kind of had everything. Gave that a 9 out of 10. And finally, the last film I watched was Richard Linklater, who I adore, one of my favorite directors. His cinematic epic in a different way to usual. Boyhood, filmed over the space of 12 years, basically chronicles a family and specifically the son, his kind of him growing up and his parents getting divorced and navigating that and life and relationships. And I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was just a flawless film for me. It resonated with me in every single way. I thought it was written fantastically, some of the best acting I've seen in a while. The pop culture references, where like obviously you start in like the late 90s and move into the 2000s, you just dropped in like little audio cues, or them going to buy the new Harry Potter book, and it was just things like that, just seeing him get older and older and older. And one of my favorite moments in that film, funny wise, was the son and the dad are sat around a campfire, and I think they've just seen Revenge of the Sith, the last of the Star Wars prequels, and they're talking about, this is before the new ones have come out, and the dad goes, "Yeah, I don't know when they'd make when they make the sequels." And the son goes, "Well, they can't do it after Return of the Jedi because there's nothing there." And I found that quite funny. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll know. You'll know. Now we've spoken about what we've seen in the past, but Veronica, do you have any cinema trips lined up?
Um, Not in the next week because I'll be working, and then on Sunday I'll be in Liverpool, so I haven't booked anything for this week. I have booked quite a few advanced bookings that I'm just going to tease and say there is a meet and greet involved. There are some Q&As with a director of a film and a star of a film. So content is coming, okay? I'm taking care of it. You just have to trust me. I don't want to spoil it because I'll mention it when it's closer, but the next month or so, of course, Venice as well, but I'm going to stop mentioning that until it starts. But yeah, there's some really interesting kind of film events that I have coming up. But no cinema trips this week. Too busy.
Now, in comparison, I'm not too busy. I've got one trip lined up, as we discussed in maybe episode 1 actually. One of my most anticipated films of the summer and the rest of the year is M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. I've got tickets to see Trap. Seen it with Jess on Friday night. I'm incredibly excited for it. The reviews look interesting, to say the least, and I think that's what all good films should be. They should be divisive. The worst type of film is the one that people don't have an opinion on. Now, talking of recent, Veronica, have you got any physical media updates for us, or do I have to carry the team?
Okay, listen, I deserve a break from spending money because I spent so much last week. So I think it is time for you to carry this segment.
Now, I know a couple of weeks ago I spoke about my experience in Gosport High Street CX, but to show my commitment to the podcast, I was in town today because I had a dentist appointment. If you're wondering, the dentist appointment went really well. They didn't have any advice for me. They said my teeth were perfect, so shove that up your ass. Now, I did venture back into the grungy world of CEX to get a film. I don't actually have it with me at the moment, but on my bookcase behind me, I managed to get Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler on Blu-ray for £2. It came as a suggestion of Flav Bateman, star of the Jaffin podcast, The Fighting Cock, and his other 8 podcasts. So we'll be watching that over the next week or so. But yeah, it's I felt really bad because I couldn't go 2 weeks without a physical media update. And I thought, you know what, I can get this for £2. It's a Blu-ray. I'll do what I can do.
Yeah, so I will not go 2 weeks without a physical media update. I will make up for this next episode. I promise. And I will have something revolutionary. I promise something revolutionary.
Now, on the theme of recent, who is ready for a bloody film roundup? We've got 5 bits of news for you. Well, I say we, me. First bit of news.
I was raising my hand because you said who's ready for a film roundup.
That was very
I was
confusing.
I was showing me. Not stop.
Yeah.
Carry on.
First bit of news. Sydney Sweeney has joined the cast of The Running Man, directed by Edgar Wright, I believe, with Glenn Powell. So, although I've not seen anyone but you, those two very bankable stars, very trusty director. I love that combination. Next up, Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are set to star in the drama, which is directed by the director of Dream Scenario, which I've not seen but heard good things about. Next up, one of my more anticipated films of the year, A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothée Chalamet, directed by James Mangold, will be getting a Christmas Day release, at least in the US. I'm not sure what it is over here. Next up, despite rumours circulating on Twitter/X of his retirement, David Lynch has clarified in a tweet that he will never bloody retire. David Lynch is sticking around. I'm watching Blue Velvet this week, so I'm very happy about that. And last but not least, this is a little bit of news for you, Veronica, because I know you like this. There will be, over the next year, novelizations of Ty West's X trilogy. All three are coming out as novels.
And I will purchase them all.
See, we've got at least 3 weeks of physical media updates out of that. So before we wrap up, Veronica is once again going to step up to the plate and attempt to beat her score of, drumroll please, 1 from last week. The game is simple. It's called Before or After, in which I'll quiz Veronica and the listeners at home, if you want to play along, on the release dates of films. It's as simple as that. In good news, I've tweaked the format ever so slightly, so it's A, easier to, it starts easier, then gets harder, and B, I realised last week all of them were before, which was slightly predictable if you were paying attention. Veronica, are you ready for the last game of this podcast?
Yep. Yep.
First up, did Ponyo come out before or after Spider-Man 2?
How is this the easiest one? Before.
Incorrect. Ponyo came out in 2008. Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004. It's okay. We've got another one of your favourites now. Did
Mm.
Paris, Texas come out before or after Hairspray?
Listen, I know. Okay, I think I know that Paris, Texas was at Cannes Film Festival, winning the main prize in 1984. I know that. What was the other film?
Hairspray.
Hairspray. Uh, Paris, Texas came out before, surely.
She's matched her score from last week.
Yay!
It did indeed come out before. Next up, did Mother come
I
out
love that
before or
film.
after Nightcrawler?
I love both of those films. Oh my god. After.
Yes, she's got 2
Yeah,
points.
I
Two out
know
of three. We're
Mother's
going well.
recent. I know it's recent.
Now we're kind of up in the difficulty here because the years are very close now. Did one of your favourites, Eurotrip, come out before or after Bruce Almighty?
I've never seen Bruce Almighty. But Eurotrip is the best comedy of all time. And I can't remember when it came out. I'm gonna say after.
She's only got 3 points.
Yes.
3 out of 4 so far. One last question. Did Alvin and the Chipmunks come out before or after Liam Neeson's Taken?
Now I love Alvin and the Chipmunks. I was obsessed as a child of every single remix that they made on YouTube of every pop song with the pitch turned up. So I should know when Alvin and the Chipmunks was released. I have seen it twice. Um, say before.
Veronica's final score on this week's edition of Before or After It's 4 out of 5. Round of applause at
Ah,
home. Round of
wait,
applause
four
in
out
the
of
studio.
five? I thought that was six.
Nope, just 4. Sorry, just 5. We
Oh,
always do 5.
okay.
It's the golden rule.
I
Let
forgot.
us know if at home you beat Veronica or you did worse than her. I think last week if you beat Veronica, let's face it, it didn't count. But we've tweaked the format and now we're thriving. And that officially takes us up to the end of another episode. Hope you really enjoyed it, especially the chat with Jack Rogers. Make sure if you're bored and you need a listen whilst we're gone, you go back to last week's episode and listen to our amazing conversation with Matt Baldwin. Whilst you're here, drop us a follow on YouTube and Twitter. It's Floodlights Pod on both. That's pod, not plod. Veronica, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Let the people know where and why they should follow us.
Yeah, of course. Follow our Twitter/X account at Floodlights Pod, and it's the same Floodlights Pod on YouTube if you don't have Spotify to listen. And also, if you want to send us anything, fan mail, PO box. We don't have a PO box. Digital PO box, which is called an email. Send us an email, floodlightpod@gmail.com. I think. Yeah. Uh, if you just want to say, hi, I love your podcast, even, just send us an email, because we don't get many emails, and I like opening my emails. Do it for me.
I'm not signed into the email, so if you get a reply, it will be from Veronica. As always, we'll be back next week, hopefully with another guest. As we had a delightful time chatting with Jack today. Make sure you drop him a follow on Twitter/X as well as Instagram. Until then, keep watching and keep consuming, and adios.